switched. Yay! All right, is the sound working? I gave my son my mixer and my condenser microphone. Not condenser, dynamic, the other one. The one that's the opposite. The one where you got to speak into it versus the one where it captures the whole room. Let me know if the sound, part of the reason why I do the test streams is so that I can test it across platform, because a lot of it doesn't seem to be. Is there any bumping sound? Yeah, that sound. Okay. So my noise gate needs some work. I hate this stuff. This is what producers do, Matt. You said that in the chat. What producers do? Yeah, so I do need to adjust my audio a little bit. I know that. But what I do is, because here we go. Okay, just chatting. I think a lot of people don't realize, kind of when you want to, like this, right? In order to automate all of that stuff, you either need to sort of be someone who knows, you either need to use like an off-the-shelf thing, like say Stream Deck, buy all those things and right. But because I'm a creative, you saw the difference. That's the same chat widget that was on my previous stream. Okay, but because I can code, this is why you should learn. Because I can code, I can skin this stuff with CSS, HTML, all that JavaScript stuff. But hang on, I've got my fucking face showing on Twitter and it's distracting as fuck. Hang on, give me a sec. Close Twitter. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so producers, okay, so it depends. It depends. Let's start with that. No, I'll start technical. Let's go technical first. So what a producer does, depending on the industry. So in agency land, a producer is somebody who produces. So that could be anything from creating a banner or a graphic, could be the producer isn't a designer. Sometimes they overlap with each other. Okay, so in design agency land, a producer is somebody somebody is somewhat of a, this is the problem with the industry. All of these job titles overlap and people get confused about who does what. And this is why, again, this is all stuff that I should probably point, which I've got all that open. But in digital agency land or in an advertising agency, a producer is a discrete role. So a producer is somebody who sort of does the running around, the organizing, but also just responsible for production. So they just, they determine what assets need to be produced, sort of that day-to-day kind of stuff. Sort of one notch down from a project manager. But yeah, these things all overlap. But then you've got your project lead, which is a project manager, and they work with each other. A producer in the movies is just the money person who just sort of builds the relationships and makes sure that all the occur, and also gets the funding, the insurance, and sort of that business side. The director's the creative part of the business end of a film production, and a producer is money side. So Matt, you're a producer. In streaming land, a producer is somebody who would be creating all of these graphics, doing the sound stuff. Again, it can be as general a role as the team allows. Like in a big agency, a producer you'd have several sort of junior producers, and then a mid-level producer, and then a production person who oversees production, and that project. Then they would report to the creative director, and maybe even like the digital. It depends on sort of. But anyway, I know, Matt. I think it's good, and also I'm testing the sound and making sure that I kind of. Problem with sound is that when you're going testes, cock and balls, hiss, pop, 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 pussy, pop, like that, you're not going to capture the whole range of movement. So I'm just kind of making sure that I have an accurate. I can't record things offline. I don't know why. It's just I get, but if I'm streaming, that kind of the adrenaline hits and the pressure sort of comes. And my lighting is still working. I'm still working on the color grading, but that takes a lot of time. Very, very boring and very tedious. And also, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I know how to color grade in Photoshop. I know how to color, but again, skills can roughly translate over. These are things that people who use filters, we'll get. This is actually going to link. Let's talk about Elon Musk and Twitter, but all these people that think they're going to be on Twitter. But this is, an emerging theme, I think, at the moment is sort of overconfidence of content creators, arrogance, Dunning-Kruger effect, being aware of the fact that, you just because you know one thing doesn't mean, and your skills might roughly translate, doesn't mean there's not a learning curve. Now, with this, right, look at my chat widget, for example. Like I'm just not happy with looking generic. Like one of the things that annoys the shit out of me is watching Twitch streamers who make fucking a fortune, okay? And they could actually just pay someone to, like, branding, just, it matters. I think it does make the difference. People notice. They don't care. They don't value it, but it's something that, it's a lot of overkill for the sort of small number of people that want. But at some point, if I do go, big, or I do have sort of, I try to get things. This is something that I've always tried to do, and it's why I often sometimes, there is a line between sort of tinkering and never actually launching, and sort of never, perfectionism, which I tend to get crippled. But at the same time, I do like to not go wide before I have my house in order. And that's been part of the problem with my website, which is not done. It's only still a placeholder. It hasn't got all of the features. My branding, my all of that stuff. I got to treat myself like a client. But the problem is, but that's okay. I'll get there. When you're in that, I'm so far behind because all of the cost of living went, COVID hit, made a decision to quit, but then didn't have my ducks in a row before COVID hit, and then you kind of end up in the back foot. We're just, I think a lot of us are in that position where, the life plan, the financial plan that I had sort of go, not the plan. I kind of everyone's sort of spinning my wheel. Now, I'm very lucky. I have patrons, Also, there is some dropout of audio. So if I talk quietly, is it when I talk quietly, or is it okay, let me just, I don't have monitor headphones. I can't tweak, but yeah, it's probably because the noise gate with a condenser mic that takes in, because I live on a somewhat busy road, maybe the noise gate's a little hefty. But let me have a look. Noise gate. Let me yeah, so it's probably kicking in a little bit too much. So okay, there we go. So it's is that better? Is that better? Okay. How are we doing now? Okay, so we want to open a little more. There we go. That might be a bit better. Is that better? Hopefully that's a bit better. Thank you for letting me test my tech here. This is the probably most least interesting thing I could do, but okay, so it's choppy. Okay. All right, let's try this. Is that better now? Still choppy? How are we doing now? Okay. Yeah, so sometimes these settings, because I don't, again, I think, again, there's a this is, again, the problem with things like Instagram, the iPhone, which is that, yes, they're great tools. Yes, they provide great access. Yes, they allow more people to create and do things. But what it does is it's letterboxed that creativity into a way that sort of, it's become assembly, right? I've talked about this a lot with how my career sort of evolved. I'm excited to see this happen. I'm excited because I was here for the first sort of space race of the web. I was here for the first time this all imploded on itself. And because I've got the skills and I can, always code and all that sort of stuff, I'm going to be fine. But, there is a real difference between craftsmanship and picking up a phone. And some people, obviously, their main focus is just the content, okay? But the problem is that there's only a handful of ways that you can differentiate at all in terms of creativity. And for me, if I learn a skill, I want to learn how it works properly, because a big part of how you create is sort of learning the building blocks. I mean, here's an example. The camera, okay, an SLR. People buy an SLR. There's a difference between a photographer with an SLR. Bear with me, people who think an iPhone is fucking, they're getting better, but you still, there's using the iPhone with filters, with automatic things that adjust everything, with AI that adjusts the light and all that stuff. And then there's the process that is underneath that when you're on manual mode. Okay. I like manual mode because the thing is that when things are broken or when things fail, you know how to overcome it. Okay. You know how to fix it. You can build something else. You can, if something happens with, let's say, Twitter, let's say you're not happy with Twitter and you want to sort of roll your own like clone or instance, okay? You know how to do it. If your website gets shut down, you know how to do that, okay? That's something where, I'm somewhat uncancelable to a point. We'll talk about the Kiwi Farms thing when, next week. But yeah, it's and that's okay. And I think that it's great that more people have access. And I think more people being able to produce stuff, what it does is that the technology and the barriers to entry sort of move back. They get out of the way. So that's in terms of the barrier to entry, that's what some of these tools have done. But what it has stripped away is people valuing the real deal. The same thing with like AI art. There's a difference between, say digital art or stock photography or anything. It's basically, I've talked about commodification before. Can you tell me if the sound is bearable or not? And I'll obviously listen back anyway, but just tell me in the moment if it's particularly shit. Anyway, hang on, let me just adjust those things to faster. I've got my noise gate open. I may as well make it. Attack release. Let's just keep it there for now. Okay, anyway, I'll adjust it back. Okay, is it okay or good? Anyway, it's never going to be perfect because I am so it's just so outside of my fucking, it's so boring and annoying and I don't like it. And it's just an area that I have no interest in. And if I'm not interested in it, I don't do it. Anyway, so, but, this is something that I've observed over time. And, anybody who's in tech has noticed this. Again, it's not so much saying in my day things were better and today things are shit. What it is that with it's about opportunity cost and what the real cost of something is, what the real cost of innovation is, right? Like the iPhone has, I can't, on balance, great. Social media, on balance, great. But this is where I think that black and white thinking, this is where the black and white thinking comes in, which is basically, well, tech all good or all bad or all good or all evil. We don't live in that kind of world. And, that's one of the things that I try to focus on is the grey. And, even you can find good in bad things, like my last stream about Kanye. You can find bad in good things, like this fucking woke shit. You can find, good things in capitalism, and you try. This is why having an honest, historical, factual, scientific approach, and when I say scientific, this was interesting actually, and I'm doing running sentences and running thoughts. I expected that today. But we're listening. We love The Courage to Be Disliked is an incredible book, right? I'm familiar with like Adlerian psychology, but it's The Courage to Be Disliked, and it's like a Socratic conversation. I recommend it. If you haven't read it already, read it. But we're doing the sequel, which is The Courage to Be Happy, right? It's a wanky title, but it's a really, really good book. But there's this idea that, if someone was a socialist, then all their ideas are bad. If I don't like socialists. Or I don't like tech, so all tech is bad. I don't like this, it's all good. I love tech. I hate tech and I am frustrated with tech in only a way somebody who fucking loves tech and built a life around tech and wants it to be better can. You see the difference? And that's where, I do find it funny, though, the critics of Musk. This is just a side point. There's so many things to find funny about this whole Musk thing. But all these people that are like, Musk never makes anything. Musk never builds anything. He never creates anything. subscribe to my YouTube and read my Substack and follow me on Twitter. All these things that are made by other people that I don't value and won't pay for. Oh, but they don't make anything. They just make money off of other people's creation, and then they sit there and they're like, they just fuck it. These, I find generally that you can. I mean, you can, there's several axes in which you can sort of define people, but there are people who are makers and people who are users. Okay. There's builders and consumers. There's builders and destroyers, okay? And so I'm somebody who's an active participant. I'm not a consumer of content per se. I am a creator, okay? There's people who make things, who learn how to build things. Then there's the people who don't build things. And this is why it's funny, because they're all basically same rent-seeking people as Musk. The only reason they hate Musk is because people tend to not like the traits in others that they see in themselves, and that is that they've never actually made anything, and the only thing that they create, right, is pretty much off the back of the same people that Elon Musk exploits. It's like, okay, and this is why I think that if you can make things, and this is why I've kind of gone on this sort of cooking tangent as well, because for the most part I was frustrated because the early days of our career, we were able to create more, we were able to build things from scratch more. And unless you're sort of in the business now of, a startup where you have the sort of the funding and all that sort of stuff to build something from scratch, you're mostly just assembling, stomach stuff. You're mostly just like assembling things and putting bits together. And, even graphic designers and stuff, most people are utilizing pre-made files because most clients will not pay for the assets that it takes to create anything from scratch. I mean, to create an animation, even the best, like my son is learning how to do video editing at the moment, and it takes him 2 days to edit his videos. He's obviously, once you get your workflow going and all that sort of stuff, but these things do take a lot of time if you're doing them with care, and you're doing them and I think this is a broader problem that we've got, which is that lazy thinking, frictionless sort of this expectation of no friction. And that comes down to, I like friction. I enjoy the process of overcoming friction. That sounds dirty. Yes, okay. Yes, there is a max, and I've capped it just so that it doesn't fill the screen up. Yeah, I tested that yesterday. The lighting's still not that great, but I'll work on that. Also, it's hard because I've got like really bad facial flushing at the moment and stuff, so it's very hard to calibrate. It looks good, but unfortunately it means that if I'm trying to get rid of the red tones, it fucking washes out the rest. So I'm trying to do it so I don't have to put on a full face of makeup in order just to stream, because a lot of the stuff I want to do is just in the moment. And again, I like to see, this is the benefit in learning how to do things from scratch, which is that you save yourself time later on when you have a problem. So for me, if I want to remove the reds and I want to, color grade everything, and I'll save myself time. It'll be more efficient in future if I do this correctly now, which is that if I was reliant on someone else's, color profile, someone else's light or whatever, then I'd have to reverse engineer that, and I'd end up having to fuck around, or I'd have to spend half an hour putting makeup on, just to sort of hide certain things, when I could actually just save that time. So, there's lots of benefits to not just going, oh, filter, that's kind of ruined the, this is my frustration. Let me just see, is talking over here, does that cut out? It seems to be okay. Because this is still a shotgun. It's not a full dynamic. It's not a full, whatever. Fucking, I don't know the difference between dynamic and whatever. But it's a shotgun. So I do need to make sure that I'm sort of within the realm. But yeah, it's, but I do want it to be in effect. So if I go fuck that, like that, the sound sort of, doesn't. Can I just scream for a minute? Is it tapping out? It's not. That's good. Okay. Because one of the things I noticed when I do that and yell is that, kind of, you got to, yeah, there's lots of technical things. Anyway, um, this won't be too much longer. I'm just testing the tech. I really like the chat. I'm really happy with that. But the other stuff, like the home screen and everything, I'm using Touch Portal, but that's actually got, Matt's here, so he'll appreciate this. It's got like a, you can, if you can do basic logic, if you know your if else and you're sort of learning your basics, you can do anything, okay, with OBS. Like you don't need to be able to, yeah, I got to turn that off. Yeah. That's the bot on, I've got to turn, there's a bot working that I was testing for certain things and it didn't, I haven't turned it off. Sorry about that. But learning these things, right? And for me, it's just, it was on its default settings. I was trying a bot and you saw it pop up at the beginning, a Stream Elements bot or something that I didn't turn off. It's fine. I'll just turn it off. It's on the list of things to sort out. But I also, some of these things you just have to see working and interacting and all those things to be able to know what you need to do. Because I do, I do like there to be some moderation on these things, because even if I swear doesn't mean you can swear, because I don't have a producer other than Matt. It means that I can't sit and moderate like messages and swearing, and also I only see them when they pop up on here. So, oh, what happened here? Oh no, there we go. Okay. Yes, exactly. So I'm really happy with the way that chat works. It's not necessarily going to be a sustainable look if chat volume goes up, but I'll create another one as well. Just for now, that looks good. Eventually it'll just be Discord only chat anyway. It'll be I have all these plans and they're just what you do now and later. Yeah. But so Touch Portal, and basically I can just automate all of this stuff, and it's really good. So I can just hook into the API and I can create all that stuff. It pulls the YouTube title and it builds my screens and counts down, and I can even use, I do like pie charts and bar graphs and everything, because I can just create a page. For anyone who uses OBS and wants to know how I do it, basically I've got a local host installed on my computer, and then I use a browser source and I just build out whatever I want as a web page, rather than trying to animate everything in After Effects, which is incredibly time consuming and resource intensive and all that sort of stuff. I just use, have a WordPress install, and I just create a page that I want, and I can just pull it. And then what I could do with Touch Portal is pass the variables to load the certain pages and all that sort of stuff, and schedule it and go, okay, and wait 3 minutes, do this, wait 2 minutes, do this, change this text value to this, tweet this, post this, change this, blah, 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 mute microphone, all of these sorts of things that you can do, pull in a Discord call, but this is just the first building block of some of this tech that I've been working, some of this stuff I've been working on to automate most of it. So I don't need a producer, funnily enough. But that's the benefit of knowing stuff. Whereas if you are, let's say a Substack person who just goes, I'm going to write my thing, I'm very short-sighted and frictionless. Oh, it's easy to sign up and it's easy. Yeah, but what happens in the future? What happens if you grow? What happens if they go out of business? They may not, but I just find it hilarious. I've said this how many times now. The people that are like, big tech censorship, you need to insure yourself. I'm going to go up Substack. Okay, well, what happens if Substack do the same thing? How are you going to back up your content? No API. Fucking idiots. But yeah. So anyway, just chatting. Let me see what happens when I put a drink down. Okay, that shows up. Okay. That's a problem. I'll get a table. I'll get a little table that's next to me. I'll do that. Anyway. Stupid. So this is, I think this is the problem that's happened here, is that those who, this applies to anything in life. If you know how to do it, if you know how to cook from scratch, you'll never starve. Generally, okay, unless you haven't got any food, and then. But if you can cook from scratch, you'll be, you know, you can be okay. Obviously, that takes time and all those things. But for the most part, if you can do things from scratch, you're going to be okay. And that's why it's funny, because all these fucking iPhone people who, you know, the reason why, let's ask that, okay? I've got a light behind me too that I've still got to, see, a lot of this stuff is I'm using lights from around the house to see what I want to get, but I need to buy the proper thing. Hang on. Look, I do actually have my giant phone. What about it? Okay, so it's not so great. Yeah, all right. I'll have to adjust it, but that's actually, thanks for that, Matt, because that's actually the most likely thing to happen. Anyway, but anyway, what I was trying to say is that the needs more thunk. Is there is a part of me that's enjoying seeing this sort of correction that's going on with tech, because I know how to make stuff. I know how to build stuff. Okay, can't be asked doing it most of the time because it's, you know, obviously most people don't want to pay for it anymore, but there may come a point where people value it again, you know, and want to pay what it takes to get bespoke stuff done. And you know, I mean, the thing is, people never learn. They never learn. They'll bitch and moan. They'll go, we're going to just move to TikTok. And the reason why people use TikTok is because their user experience is excellent. And all these journalists who are like, I know all about user experience and web design because I post on one. It's like, no, you don't. It's a fucking discipline. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay, how many user research groups have you been running? How many like personas have you built in time? How much fucking psych theory do you have behind you? Shut the fuck up. You don't know about user experience. Again, these people, they just say words. People, there seems to be the Venn diagram between lazy ass people, okay, fucking super online thunk piece writers, and people who think they know everything because they just say the words. Like, that's a circle. Exactly. So like, but it's, I find it interesting because I was watching this, actually speaking of this, I was watching this fucking unfold. It's always unfolding, these fucking feminists. But the Christians are all arcing up at like one of the real feminists on Twitter last night, saying that Christians can be feminists too, and I was like, her argument is that no, religion is patriarchal, and unless you are actively critiquing the patriarchal sort of structures of your religion and your church, then, you know, unfortunately, like feminism, you know, just because America defined it as equality for both people under capitalism, the right to work fucking 12 hours a day and the right to put our children in a for-profit daycare, that's not feminism. Feminism is structural analysis of patriarchal structures that benefit, you know, the oppressed women. That's it. Okay, and that's the thing. It's like, well, and that was the argument, and I kind of tend to agree with that argument. I'm not one of those people that gatekeeps and polices who is and isn't a feminist. I don't give a shit. I think it's pointless and it's bitchy. But a lot of the sort of the conservative, sort of all of the sort of gender criticals who have sort of lurched into the far right are taking exception to that argument. And it's like, well, we can be feminists and still support the nuclear family. No, you can't. It's not what feminism is. Outside of America, where you've made it a fucking the right to wear, like, you know, bedazzled titty fucking whatever the fucks, you know. And again, it's just and this is what this was who was it? Jane Clare Jones, and she said words mean things. And this is what I've said before, words mean things. User experience design means things. Things cost money, things take effort. And just because you consume and consume and consume doesn't mean it takes, you know, a fuck ton of brain power to get where you are. Like these sort of American libertarian bros where they're like, oh, we'd be fine. We should have no government and no fucking anything because then we could just do crypto. And it's like, well, who runs the infrastructure for crypto? Is that publicly funded internet infrastructure? Okay, well, who funded the research I think you'll find that most of that was publicly funded. Oh, okay, well, and you got to just walk through the steps, walk through the how, walk through, okay, what does that word mean? Define it. Okay, and this is why I'm laughing my ass off at these people that are like, I'm going to build a new Twitter. And they don't build anything. They're on Substack. They can't even do WordPress. It's like, seriously, fucking hell. Like they find MailChimp too hard. So they go to, it's like, oh my God. Okay, you're suckling at the teat of big tech, whether you like it or not. I'm actually sitting there and just going, okay, well, how can I sort of operate within this? But I can always build my own shit, and I'm not worried by that stuff. I find it quite funny. But this is another reason why this Kiwi Farms is so worrying, because we're sort of heading into that. We're heading into a fairly scary, concerning time where arbitrary decisions can be made at very, very at infrastructure level to get rid of anyone, without any real, no court order. I mean, obviously it's a bit more contentious than that, but I'm just saying this sets a precedent for being able to shut someone down at the ISP level. I'm not talking, this is at the wholesale ISP level, of which there are only a handful worldwide. Okay, where they can actually say, if you provide services to Kiwi Farms, when we have it's an oligopoly and we have there's only a handful of providers and everyone who's dependent on them downwind, okay, if you provide them services, we'll shut you off as well. This is what's happening. I'll talk about it next week. Excellent. But Matt, someone who, people just go, oh yeah, the people don't think about, like, all these people, like one of the things that's happening at the moment is all this sort of Twitch is having trouble trying to sort of become profitable. And the problem with VOD, and not even VOD, Twitch isn't even really VOD. Twitch is streaming. Keeping that stuff up, right? Infrastructure-wise, is incredibly complex, incredibly expensive, has, like, people just take it, they go, oh no, I all these people that are just on Twitch, I should have this for free, and it's like, well, you do know video, especially live stream video that stays up, and especially video that is VOD afterwards, right? Video on demand, like YouTube replay, okay, and saved on the server at the scale we're talking. Do you know how expensive that is? Okay, now it just so happens that, but this is why Google and Amazon are largely the only owners of these things, because they're the only ones that can afford to fucking host this stuff, because they're the ones with the data centers. They actually are, in the case of Twitch, like Amazon own the infrastructure, right? So they're the client, it's a cost center. It's a transfer of cost. It is ultimately probably a business expense write-off, but generally, okay, for you, if you've ever looked into how much it costs to just host a podcast on your own website, okay, with MP3 files that are static, okay, for that to stay reliable, for it to stay up. If you have a popular podcast and you're hosting it, you need a fucking dedicated server straight off the bat, okay? And people just don't know how much it costs to host these things, okay? And this is where Amazon, S3, all those things, they're actually tremendously valuable services. Annoying, but it's kind of one of those things where it's a natural monopoly in some ways because of the way that it is. Anyway, that's a whole fucking thing. My main point was that just because you sit and click on Prime, okay, just because you passively watch something, there's so much technology. There's so much time, IP over time, so much research, so much manpower, so many resources. Okay, there's so many resources that go into these sorts of things that you just take for granted and you just consume, and then you turn around and you won't pay for it, and then you complain about the fucking ads as well. I wrote a thing about this years ago where I sort of, the ad blocking. See, now, okay, I believe that if you are consuming something for free, there's multiple ways to look at this, but generally, okay, if you are consuming something valuable, not shit, but, valuable piece of content, okay, for free, you shouldn't be using an ad blocker, okay? Now, if you're paying for a thing and they're still going to give you ads, absolutely. If they're harvesting your data and still giving you ads, then they can fuck off. I'm saying there's complexities to that. But you need to, all of the good content that's free is paywalled because it costs money to produce these things. Like people balk at my hourly rate, but it's like my overhead, just keeping things up, okay, is and not to mention the business risk, okay? You need to make sure that your contracts are in order. You need to pay lawyers. Everyone else gets paid more than before I get paid. You've got hosting infrastructure. You've got all of the software subscriptions. And now because everyone's moving to a fucking subscription for every fucking thing, okay, you end up having regular, constant overhead, right? Speaking of podcasts, hang on. So a real question. Speaking of podcasts, do you listen to Noel's streams on Fridays? And no, I don't. It's not that I don't like that type of content. I don't have time. I haven't had time. Like I said, I will. I actually would when things sort of settle down, I'd like to try and talk to him and have him as a guest if I can. But we'll see how I don't know whether that's something that can happen. But there's stuff coming down the pipe that I'm planning. Like I said, I'm in that sort of dormant phase where I'm just prioritizing other things. That means I'm not consuming because I kind of, I've noticed this, and I talked about this, I think, a little bit in the second Kiwi Farms thing with this Twitch thing, how lazy, the Twitch drama content, where when you are consuming content a lot, you end up in react mode and all these reaction things. And yes, I know that's people like that. People enjoy sitting down and just reacting to stuff, right? Oh, you're really happy that you got that credit, aren't you? I'll take it away. I do like that kind of content. I do want to go and watch it. I've got a backlog, and also I'm just stretched so thinly, and I've had to focus on my own stuff just for a while because I had a hard drive crash and I took the opportunity to, like I said, skinning my chat. And, I know it sounds like silly stuff, but I do want to just get my branding in order and do some housekeeping. And then I know it's a kind of sideways question, but the first thing that goes when I'm busy is listening, because I can't do both. I can't listen to things and do other things. I like to work in so I will. The answer is I will. And I am interested in what he's got to say, because what he's pulling off is, I think what we need to do is bring to the surface what he's actually doing, because I couldn't do it, right? I couldn't do what he does. And I'm pretty, I'm legit impressed with what he's put. I don't understand it. I'm a designer and a sort of digital strategist, but I'm not a fucking server person or an infrastructure person. I tap out at a certain point. And people have no idea what this man is going through right now. So I do need to go through and have a look. I've been obviously reading what's been going on and keeping up to date, and we'll be talking about it next week. But yeah, I'm stretched really thinly. That's the problem with I think the problem with my kind of content, aside from today, which is clearly just a sort of catch-up test, all of this testing all of these sort of scripts and automations that they work. So what I did, see, this is what you do, is that you start with alpha. This is my alpha stream thing. And now I'll go and I'll create all the buttons and all of the scenes and all the stuff. So proof of concept is working, okay? So it's actually working and interacting pretty well. And then I'll tweak as I go, So that's what this stream is. And also I haven't streamed in a while and I felt the pressure. So Mito Kerr is quite the name on this side of the internet. He was talking about these things years ago before they were mainstream, and also talks about funny stuff. So and so you have both serious and fun. And that's what I've tried to do. I will, and I thank you. Can you send me a link actually, because I'm I'm not familiar with him. But again, I started, if you look at why I started my YouTube channel, I'm deathly afraid of camera. Like I was always stage fright. Like I wrote that song the other day. There is nothing if you ever see me perform it, I can play like instruments and sing and stuff. But if you ever see me do it, that would be a tremendous fucking thing. Extreme stage fright, extreme camera fright. But what I did was I started to see this happen. Like, well, I've been concerned about this stuff since 2014. But I've been anti fucking, social media strategist since day one. Like you'll see that I called these people snake oil salesmen in 2008, so, I'm pretty credentialed in that myself. I'm just not in that sort of content creation scene, mostly because I went agency side and I bought the Kool-Aid for a while. And I thought that if I just kept trying and kept trying and kept sort of, twisting myself in knots. And that took me a decade to figure out that this, this was sort of not a bug, but a feature of the internet now because with the corporate takeover in the wake of sort of DMCA. I'd like to talk to him mostly because I think we have that same sort of history with the internet. I was there when all this shit went down. Like I've seen it and I sit there and that's not what happened. Like, that is not what happened. You stole it from us. We were promised this. You kept dangling the carrot in front of us. You told us this. You promised us this. And you lied. And you stole it. The internet, like, not for hyperbole, but, it was effectively colonized by agents, advertising agencies and corporate interests. And, security state and all of those things, right? I was there. I seen it. I sang that. That's just a fucking hybrid of whatever fuck. That's racist, probably. Whatever. But yeah, I will. So the internet history stuff, right? So on YouTube, look for Mr. Mito. I'll write it down. Hang on. Don't have a pen with me. It's all right. I'll look at it. Mito Kerr, and you'll see lots of channels with archives and streams. Yeah, so back to 2014. I wish I had done YouTube earlier. I was late to the party. I just went down a different track, which I thought that, for better or worse, naively, like I was aware of all this stuff. I am, old school. I'm like IRC, old school, fucking, from the trenches, right? I've gone through all of it. Okay, lived it, gone viral, been fucking, everything. Okay, over the years, I had a very complicated relationship with this stuff. But I went business side because I reached a point where I thought that maybe I bought the innovation Kool-Aid. I thought that if I just was the change I wanted to see and I just built what I wanted to build, because again, I believed that. Like that was what I laughed at with the Kanye and Lex Friedman interview with Lex. It's like he still buys that shit. He obviously hasn't tried to do that outside of like an MIT or an institutional environment, because if you're an outsider in tech, you can't just build it, because they will either demand that you bend to their will, like the VCs and the money people. They'll go, okay, or they will cut you out, okay, or they'll just dangle you and go, okay, no, write me a proposal. No, tweet that. Then, oh yeah, and then eventually you lose a decade because you've been, like eventually you've been sort of nudged and they tell you just enough, that sort of carrot, the carrot dangling. They tell you just enough to keep you. Yes, I remember Gamergate, like that was like, yeah. The internet, yeah. Oh, okay, yep. All right. Okay, I'm with you now. Yeah, so a lot of those folks, I was, again, peripheral to gaming. I was there. I knew what was going on, but I was trying to do things. I was trying to build product. I was trying to create an agency. I was trying, and like my agency was my last ditch attempt after several attempts to build an agency where it was, it started, it wasn't a co-op to begin with, but that was sort of the approach that I wanted to get to. 4-day work week, caring, about all of this stuff, like doing it from scratch and bespoke. But what ended up happening was that all the, we'd get obviously we had some really good clients, but what we would do is become the sort of the cum dumpster for agencies, where they would call us when things were going wrong and we would fix it. But they would come to us when they were at the end of their projects, had no money, and they'd go, oh, we need your help, and we need your help. And then we would do that work and we'd fix everyone else's work. But then they'd still just stay with those shitty agencies because, for whatever reason. And I started to realize that ethics is just not a factor in the marketplace in terms of, like, they say that that's the case, okay? But it's all somewhat of a veneer. But to actually do things the right way, or to do things with correct process, you get cut out and it's not profitable and you can't compete. You get squeezed out. So you're going to go up against guys who are promising everything and they say all the right words and then fuck you in the end, okay? That's sort of why I left. But I was stuck in I still, up until 2014, I burned out in 2011 the first time. I couldn't do it anymore because clients just give me the shits. Okay, this was back to not valuing how things are made and the process and things are built. I'm the designer, you just put the pixels together. And it's like, that was my fucking, I just go, no, you're not. No, you're not. Then how about you go build it then? And I used to, but then they won't pay for it and all this sort of stuff. And fucking client shit. They want everything, and they, everything for free and everything brilliant. And this is what sort of social media and Twitter and these tech platforms have done in terms of setting people's expectations. When I talk about that frictionless stuff and Substack and those things, the expectations become higher and higher and higher, but with no consideration of the trade-off, which is data, which is the fact that they can, they control whether you have a platform or not. You are at the mercy of the algorithm. You are, you are either chosen to make money monetize on their platform, or you are suppressed. Like there's a trade-off, and that was what I was talking before about opportunity cost of the internet. So what I was trying to do was, there's people that are still sort of, I just think the horse is bolted, and I think that we need a do-over. And this is sort of the problem. And this is why I'm excited with some of these things that are sort of shifting. But yeah, so Noel streams every Friday on Odyssey. Yeah, I've been meaning to look at Odyssey. I'm on there. I've got my account and it imports my streams. But yeah, I know. I am aware of Mad at the Internet. I do follow it. I'm behind. I'm familiar with it. There's just because I am also, don't forget, I'm trying to build courses. My target audience is, a lot of my target audience are people who resist what I have to say, rather than preaching to people who already know what I'm talking about. Okay, so if I sort of, and also I don't want to be perceived to be just, nicking his IP, because he's in a position where he can't monetize really, all that stuff. And I think that when it's like with comics, when they don't, when they're writing their material or writing their show, they try not to go to other comedy shows because they can accidentally just sort of absorb stuff, and it's just a thing. Okay, so my target audience is, well, perverts like Matt who will give me money on Patreon. No, I'm kidding. But it's normies. Okay, so because I think my biggest frustration is that people don't see what's coming down the pipe. And everyone has a different role. And there's people who are sort of operate more on the edges and sort of, dive into Gamergate. But you'll notice what I did with Kiwi Farms, right? What I did with Kiwi Farms was I tried deliberately to present a somewhat reasonable and balanced perspective. Like, I'm personally very fucking angry about what happened and keeps happening to Kiwi Farms, okay? I also am conscious of optics. I'm also conscious of many factors, right? It's the same thing with the sort of the gender debate. What I try really hard to do, I try to do what people like Lex Friedman claim they're doing, okay? which he does sometimes and mostly, and I think he's good faith, but he's an engineer, he's got blind spots. But I try to do that on the people side. But what I try to do is bring people and pique people's interest in a way. It's kind of like a funnel, right? Try to, because everything is an online funnel now, right? This alt-right gateway, whatever the fuck that means, okay. But there is the, Lex Friedman. So there is the real, Friedman, sorry. There is this, the problem is that because the internet has turned so tribal and all those tribes have been weaponized in one way or another, and because you've got, basically, I mean, you can see, if you're an agency person, you go, well, okay, if I was a bad guy, I'd have done psychographics on every fucking segment and be targeting those segments and nudging them in various directions. I've talked about that stuff on like previous streams about these agencies that are specialist in sort of nudging the needle, right? And radicalizing people. So Fallen, just to address you, Fallen Angel, I have been very deeply entrenched in a lot of this culture war stuff for many, many years. I was initially friends with a bunch of these people until I realized that they were lying. I've read all of their stuff. I'm aware of all their stuff. This is not 101 stuff for me. Like this is sort of, first year undergrad fucking culture wars stuff. And I'm not reading I have read How to Have Impossible Conversations, and but that was also co-written by a complete charlatan, and liar. And unfortunately, Peter Boghossian by association. I think those who are associated with that man is But yes, again, I try to take things on the merit of their on the spirit of their ideas. But I have read, just assume that if it is a popular book and it's related around the culture wars, that I not only read it, but I've fucking got notes in the columns on it. Okay, I'm trying to write my stuff, but you only really get funded for these things if you're in the US, first of all, and also if you're sort of willing to push one agenda. And the problem is that there's very few people that will lean in, so to speak, to this stuff, because it's so poisonous. It's just so bad for you. I'm hoping with the change of ownership on Twitter that we might be a little freer to go at it, and because I keep my nose clean, because keeping my platform is the main thing that I need to do, is because I've effectively got no reach. I've been cut off because of my association with a bunch of these people, okay, because I basically get mass reported by all of their troll farms all of the time on all sides because I say something they don't like. Yeah, so Matt, so yes, I do need to produce content. And so you're correct. I do need to get that with cracking. But the thing is, to do things properly, it takes time, or it takes money. And money can expedite the process, especially with online stuff. Anyone who thinks that it's organic at all anymore is deluding themselves. It was maybe the case a decade ago, but now it's pay to play, and if it's not an overt ad, it's definitely funded somewhere behind the scenes, or it's politically useful for someone, okay, or it's selling something. But I've specifically focused and researched the culture wars on Twitter since 2015. Okay, Gamergate is somewhat peripheral to that. It is part of it, but it's peripheral. So just assume knowledge there. I know that when people land in, they think, oh, I don't know things or haven't read things. I have failed to monetize it for various reasons, mostly because I'm not media trained. But most of the people that are succeeding in this space are, Americans or Brits, and they're either failed comedians or, but I've helped a lot behind the scenes. I've made introductions to people behind the scenes. I have had, I have, again, I'm a soft power person. I like to operate in the, there's people who like Nick and people like that who will just go bullet at a gate, and they'll but they end up being banned. That's how they go. Like if you understand the climate, you understand where I'm at, which is you go, well, there's certain things you can't do if you want to, there's trade-offs. And also because I'm out with my real name and I do all of these things that I'm straight up and down, and you don't want to make yourself a target. So I'm pretty good at sort of hiding, not hiding, I don't hide under the radar, but there's a sweet spot with this stuff, which is having enough influence to, get patrons and survive and tick along and run your own race and, have your loyal fans. And not wanting to be mainstream to the point where you are a target. Now, I've said this before, I have not been a target that I can see by anyone in some time. The main target thing that I have been targeted by is the Terps at the moment. And that's basically just their fucking relational aggression shit where they're just, gossiping in fucking chats. But that's just mummy blog bullshit that's been around for 20 years, right? So that's been around forever. So the culture war made people join the Thirdiverse. That's where, yes, I know. Yes, I'm aware. So, but yeah, that's happening. Happy Elon Day. Scott, good to see you. How many accounts are coming back in the next few weeks? Scott, tell Fallen Angel how much I know about this stuff and how long I've been, how battle worn I am from all of this stuff. I may not be one of the front and center people. I'm sort of more one of those quiet people behind the scenes, and I build relationships behind the scenes. And what I do is I try to use my soft power. And this is one of the benefits of, I think business is that I can see, I'm just more solution focused, and I just don't seek, I don't value being, I don't think content creators are of any value whatsoever. And I think if anything, they fuck everything up. So that's part of the reason why I don't want to be one. I try to hold myself to ethical standards and, same. Yeah, anyway, it's not something I sought. It's something that I felt like I needed to do. And I'm still not very skilled at it, but it's one of those things, right? Yeah, no, but that's just being a worldview thing. It's like, I don't know. Okay. Fallen Angel, you don't know this one specific person. No, I don't, because I have a life, first of all, and also I come at it from a different angle, which is when you are reading lots and lots of fucking dense theory and whatever, okay, you're not hanging on the internet, and that's okay. Doesn't mean I don't know the internet, like, well, okay. I don't know what your test is for me to prove my experience. If I don't know what you know, then I know nothing. Is that what you're saying? Maybe I've got a different perspective on things that might actually, you might learn a thing or two. So, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, did you break YouTube? Did you? Okay. Yeah. So I'm saying there's lots of different reasons, and I was saying that there are parallel narratives, there are parallel tribes. Also, there's people that are off sort of doing various, certain things about the internet. Principles don't change just because, and history doesn't change, and the need for process and these sorts of, development cycles and fucking the markets, all those things. There's things that remain fixed and don't change regardless of who's in it and what the actual event is. Gamergate was, yes, the collision of multiple different historical factors that come into play. And one narrative has, been dominant in the mainstream media, and I will give it that. But not knowing specific fucking individuals. What, you think I was hanging out in fucking 4chan when, no, I'm not. What's that got to do with anything? Again, I'm not going to sit and justify what I know, but I also understand the human computer interaction. I understand how people psychologically interact with computers. I understand the broader social context of all of these things. And I understand how it interacts with government, because I have actually tried to sit and talk to politicians about the internet and watch them fucking ask if I can fix their fucking printer. This is the reality we live in. And so what I try to do is appeal to those people who don't have these like layers and layers of dank fucking memes and like in talk, all that stuff, Okay. I try to make it accessible to people so that they can care about the very real issues and try to tell a story that appeals to these people, because I have come up against sea levels. I've come up against all these people who aren't interested in any of this stuff, and they let this stuff happen because they go, oh yeah, that sounds right. Sounds about right. Okay. Because they tap out at a certain point because they go, oh, that's technical. Oh yeah, whatever. Okay. Well, if it was a problem, they wouldn't. It's like you need to. Everyone's got something of value to contribute to these conversations, okay? And I come at it from a humanities perspective, from a socialist perspective. That one probably fits better, okay, than let's go bully people on the internet and fucking whatever. But you can understand the broader trends and the actual stuff without understanding the minutia. Again, this is someone who's like, oh, have you consumed this content? No, but I've built product and I've worked at the strategic level in tech companies. Does that help? When you're talking about something like Cloudflare or ISPs or censorship or design of algorithms and how these things work and content moderation, guess who knows what they're talking about? Okay. Or how you run dodgy campaigns, how you could run, ethics in these things. That's stuff that I know about because I am a practitioner in that area. Okay. I'm not pretending that I know the minutiae of everything. I don't even understand how fucking Twitch works, but I understand what's happening with Twitch. I understand how it works. You know what I'm saying. So anyway, this is why I don't argue with fucking chat. I appreciate you watching and I appreciate the recommendations, but I think that we could go in a lot better with these kind of conversations if you didn't assume that just because a woman's talking on the internet about something that you didn't know she knew about, that she hasn't read one of the most fucking mainstream books on these things. It's like, yeah, no, I've read that, plus also, pretty much every research paper that exists on radicalization at the fucking PhD, all of the data. And all of this stuff, I've also read all of the fucking literature on pretty much all of it in the last 6 years. I've done 3 PhDs worth of work on this stuff. So that's where I was like, okay, well, sorry, I was too busy doing that to find out who that one person was. Also, I'm on stream. If I see his face or look at his channel or whatever, I probably have encountered it at some point. It's just that when you're on stream and, ADD, all those things, you don't remember, you don't recall. Again, this is the difference between someone who consumes stuff and cheerleads people, or thinks this stuff is easy, or expects everything to be sort of handed and frictionless, versus those who make stuff and those who, take the time to do things properly. Everyone's got answers behind the keyboard, is what I'm saying. So, with all due respect, I don't mean that in a horrible way. I just wanted to, because this is the problem with this fucking, all of this stuff, which is imperfect allies across the board, that if you don't understand this is the same thing with, the gendered stuff, all of these fucking things. If you don't know the exact thing that I'm talking about and you don't care about it immediately, and if you ask any questions, then you hate that thing. It's like, no, it's just not within my worldview. Principle of humanity, principle of charity, okay? Most people don't care about what you care about. That's the fucking, especially the spurgy people, okay? I get it. I'm just saying that, cut people some slack, all right? Don't hold them to the standard just because you consume a certain thing. I'll often just find a thing and go, oh, yeah, I didn't know they existed, okay? Especially if you don't hang out on Twitch, because, Twitch is time consuming. Adults don't sit around watching streams for 8 hours a day. I hate to break it to you. And if you do, then you're not watching other things. I don't know how to explain to you that you can't possibly watch all of the things all of the time and get anything done. Okay? That's why it is the way that it is. Okay? I barely have time to do my Fallout 76 fucking daily task to get the fucking thing I want. Okay? Let alone anything else. How do I undo? I have seen The Producers. Yes. So you're still going. But yeah, Australian politicians, particularly, when we were trying to pass the metadata legislation, oh my God, they were just like, oh yeah, that's fine. It's just metadata. Meta means not data. It means around the data. It's like, are you retarded? Also,
How can I print this? How can I fix the margins in my document, sweetheart? You know computers, those people. That stuff. But yeah, but the thing is, I think anybody who claims to know all of the things about all of the things, I don't know all of the things, but I know more than most people, and I have a fucking pretty decent, number of years under my belt and a number of disciplines and work under my belt to have something to say. Um, but I know for a fact that there's about 8 fucking disciplines that you need to have sort of post-grad level understanding in order to fully explain every aspect of Gamergate, even, let alone the other stuff. Okay, especially when Kiwi Farm's issue with Cloudflare, that it becomes equally impenetrable because most people don't understand what a fucking what are CDNs and fucking DDoS protection. My brain farted. See, okay, ADD happens. Okay, difference between consuming and talking on a camera. But people who consume expect people to fucking be polished because they're so. This is again the problem with the frictionless don't make me think notion. There's a book from the 90s. Was it 90s, early 2000s? I think it was later than I started. Which became the Bible for some time. Don't make me think. It's a bit of a mistake because now people only trust information from people who are lying to them because they're the slickest people, the snake oil people, the influencers, the people who speak good, Americans, and it's the same problem that they had in the 50s where people wouldn't listen to a newsreader that wasn't an old middle-aged man that was comforting and telling them words, polished Ivy League words that they understood. That's a problem. Okay, because most people who have something to say, funnily enough, the people who know most about what their subject is, don't have time for media training. And that's why you tend to get hacks of an industry moving over into media. Okay, so anyway, that again, time, resources, priorities. And also, if you understand anything about psychology, okay, is that when you're talking about personality and temperament and disposition, all those sorts of words, okay, which is that the disposition and temperament of somebody who is an engineer doesn't have, generally, they are at odds with each other. Generally, in 99% of cases, there's a blind spot in another area. The thing with engineers is that they think that everything is an engineering problem and that people are an engineering problem. Psychology has a problem of too many fucking engineers in it at the moment, or too many fucking STEM people, because, again, that's just the nature of academia, which is that that's where the money is under capitalism to, produce research that is, has data, but nothing really big picture. But then you've got the humanities, which is slightly different, still valid, but they're different skill sets, and they're as largely devalued because engineers think they run the fucking world, and look what's happened because engineers thought they ran the world. It's almost like, over decades I've been saying, just because you can do this, you need to pause, you need to think, you need to not do this. So when you start saying that other people are experts in things where I was in the room having the same thing, it's almost, there is a slight, I do get a little, again, I accept it is what it is, but at the same time, it's like, well, yeah, he may well be talking about the things that, are important to him, but that doesn't mean that I wasn't in those rooms as well, working on the ground, having conversations with engineers, very frustrating ones, saying that you shouldn't be doing this early, because I saw the banks and the insurance companies and all of these people circling around these engineers, and the engineers believed what they were telling them, that they could do cool shit because engineers like doing cool shit. Okay, and this was the thing where I have been pretty much on record for 20 years minimum on this, saying you shouldn't fucking, you got to think things through. There's an impact here. Okay, pause. And they didn't. And this is what happened. This is, again. But sorry, I don't know that YouTuber. My mistake. What would I know? I'm just an Australian. Just a woman in tech. When no one listens to them, they just make logos and shit, don't they? Don't they just make things pretty? Anyway. So I think that this test stream's good. But oh yeah. So with Musk, right? It's the same thing with them creating their own Twitter. I love how it's like I wonder if Fallen Angel's a dude. What's the bet? Apparently there's a thing called the Fediverse. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. You know, except the fact that I've had this shit going for fucking before everyone got cancelled, and I already knew about it. I've been talking again. It's like, what the fuck, people. Apparently, yeah, I don't know if you know, but there's this thing called the Fediverse and federated tech. Okay, it's decentralized. It's like Twitter, but it's not. Explain it to me further. Oh, I love that shit. Also, have you heard of this book? Don't know if you heard about it. It's called Why Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. You may have heard of it. It's everything you need to know about relationships. I'm not discounting what Peter Boghossian is saying. I'm saying that women read books too, and just because you've stumbled on me doesn't mean I don't know things. And just because I'm not on YouTube doesn't mean I haven't produced fucking material on this stuff my whole career for 30 fucking years. Anyway, I'm gonna go, I think. But you know, it is pretty funny how they're building their own. I'll you know, we'll talk about it some other time. This was mostly just, hopefully the sound is okay. I'm going to play it back. Also, this is long enough for me to test some stuff. And you know, poo emoji. Oh, good, the emojis show up properly as well. I was curious about that. That looks good. Okay. I didn't see how many. Can you just spam my chat for a minute? Can you do that? And just, I want to see if it where it cuts off. Can you spam it? I'm giving him permission to fucking graffiti my chat for the first time ever. I just want to see it working because it only gives you like one sample when you're skinning it. I have to adjust the lighting though. Sorry about that. My skin's just extra red today, so I had to play with the filters more. So I don't want to have to cake on makeup. I'd rather just go without if I can. Fucking hell, Matt. I'll have to do it then. Bam. Boo. Piss. Okay. That looks all right. I might make it a little higher and narrower maybe so that it goes up the left. Oh, sorry. Left. Anyway. So the light does, yeah, it's still fucking, lighting is my, if you know any, like, I'll listen back to the sound. So usually only takes me a couple of goes to get the sound going, but it should be okay. Just promoted yourself to executive producer because there are no rules and it sounds cool. It's probably locked you out. That bot probably is also stopping you spamming, whereas I can spam it. Yeah, anyway. I think it's time for me to go. I'm going to go and I'm going to do more of this like coding and shit. I'm going to have my React sounds and because I like sound and React videos and shit and some GIFs and, you know, the GIFs that I've had over the time. I'll turn off that bot at some point. I've just got to configure it in a way that's, I think you can also whitelist certain users. That might be the best way to go. But again, I've got to set up a Discord and all those things. Eventually, I'd like to do it so we can have call-ins and stuff. We'll just have a more, so my goal is to have a sort of more unstructured thing once a week or so where we just fucking shoot the shit. Because I think me naming videos things and then going off on tangents probably pisses people off. It's funny, but like it's probably not good in the long run. So we'll just sort of shoot the shit. And if there's a clip in it, then I'll just create a clip, which is unlikely. Editing me is fucking impossible because I forget what I was saying. I'll go, oh yeah, I was talking about that, and then I'll remember and realize that I didn't actually talk about it. Or I didn't finish it. Or I would have said it differently or tried something else. But, you know, that's the difference between, you know, watching a fucking person who's a confidence man, media trained, who will just lie and versus someone who's just thinking and having ideas. And, you know, I don't rehearse anything. So you may be surprised after today. But yeah. Anyway, my light wall is working better, but I've just got to adjust it. I've got to do some. I just hate color grading. It's so boring. It's just boring. But yeah, video color grading's different to fucking photo because photo's static. It's harder than it looks. Again, it's one of those things where there's just a learning curve, and it's not so much learning curve. Color grading, get it? No one gets it. But you know, everything has a learning curve to it. That's why I was like, fuck it, I'm not going to learn After Effects. I'm going to code my animations and use a browser source instead, because that's what I know how to do. So I can just, you know, do a local install and just pull in a browser source from my local host, rather than, you know, just lay out the page at 1920 by 1080 and then lay it out the way that I want and animate it with code rather tand doing it with After Effects and shit. But that also allows it to be dynamic, because if I use my REST APIs, if I use my APIs and all that sort of stuff, I can actually just automate all of it, like pull the title, update that, do that, put that title there, you know, make it dynamic. So that will work a lot better than going into After Effects and fucking updating titles manually and everything. Because a lot of the stuff that is so time consuming is obviously the creation of the assets. So if you can just make it all text files and stuff, it's a lot easier. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to try and figure out the next thing. I haven't done this in years, but I need to figure out how to make a justify text to fit in the box so that the words get big and then the words, so it's like justified but different text size. I need to fucking find that, figure out I can't remember what it's called. If you remember what that what that is actually called, I can't remember. But I'll look it up. I'll probably find it. Again, you know, you could be coding for years and know how to do things. Like I love these people that are like, this is okay, Google tech. This is what tech do. When you're in a tech interview and then they put you through this thing and they try to trip you up and they give you a coding exercise. And it's like everyone who codes has fucking the browser, Stack Overflow open, this open, source reference open, but they go, oh no, here's your coding exercise. And they go, ha 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 ha, and they try to trip. I think that's the difference between people who probably aren't terribly, they're more about tearing people down because they'll try to tear you down on something you missed. Like, oh, I forgot a thing. Yeah, I got ADHD. I'm not going to remember it, but I can look it up and I know how to, like, I understand it. I just can't remember. And I go, oh yeah, how do I do that thing? What's that thing called? What's that thing in says? You can't possibly remember it. And if you think you do, then you're full of shit. It means you don't know enough. If your memory is like, if you remember things at that level of detail, it means that you have such narrow discipline and training that you are able to memorize all of that detail, or you've got fucking Asperger's, and that's okay. But that also means that you're narrowed. It's not possible to have broader strategic understanding, okay, and also very detailed knowledge about fucking, you know, a function in PHP that's specific to PHP 8 in this certain architecture environment and what breaks, okay. You can know enough to go, okay, I know where to go and look, okay, that's broken, okay, troubleshooting process, but I also understand the other side of things and the design. So, you know, I'm rare. People who understand both the people, the design process, and I tap out at sort of server, and I also tap out at super creative, artistic, you know, like I'm okay. I'm a designer, but I'm not an artist as such. I can't draw for shit, you know, like I can use tools, but I can't draw. You know, same with music. I can play fucking 5 instruments and none of them great. Okay, but you know, ask me about an augmented fucking 13th on a fucking saxophone. I don't fucking know, but I can look it up and play it, right? That's the difference. Anyway, that's and people do that with political theory too, right? I just know roughly that most people who understand political theory and also have media training, okay, to a point where they can actually, you know, it's hard to go deep and wide at the same time, okay, and you have to be pretty smart. I'm pretty smart. I'm not the smartest, okay, but I'm pretty fucking capable, and I go deeper and wider than most. There you go, Matt. Open your butthole. That's what producers do. They take it. I go deeper and wider than most people. Join my OnlyFans. All right. Anyway, I think this is derailed. I am going to go. Matt definitely won't be able to reply with the bot right now. Anyway, my apologies to Matt's wife for that comment. So, anyway, and my husband, that guy, you know, my number one patron. No, but you know, again, it's just a matter of I know what the landscape is, and I know what the skill sets are, and I know what it takes, and I know what effort is involved, so I can tell when people are lying or bullshitting or, you know, I know what skills are compatible with other skills, and what skills, you know, how much time and effort you need to develop certain skills well. So if someone's claiming that they are also sort of producing this sort of creative stuff and also, you know, their own producer, also doing client work, also doing this stuff, something's happening. Like, and also deep on theory. Like, I'm unusual for most people. Like, most people can't do political theory and code CSS, okay? Let alone understand psychology and stuff. I'm unusual. I'm not saying I'm the best or I'm unique. I'm saying I'm unusual across, you know, like 90% of people don't even understand one discipline well. Okay. But I don't understand one discipline with huge amounts of expertise. I still need to look things up. Okay. But, you know, still have some fucking value. Jesus Christ. Worst case scenario is always only because my shits are tits. My tits are shit. So I have to have a brain. That's my only choice. It's the only way to get through is my brain. Because I don't have the media training. I can't speak like, you know, the polished teeth people in America. And I'm never going to, but, you know, it doesn't mean that what I have to say isn't worthwhile. And, you know, I would benefit tremendously from, again, here's a word that changes, editor. In a writing sense, someone who can, like, you know, help structure my stuff better and write, you know, not without losing the essence of what I write. You know, that would be, you know, a book editor or, you know, someone who actually does that, okay? Remember, journalists have a fucking team of people. They have sub-editors. They usually often pay people. They offshore stuff. They, you know, they pay proofreaders. I think if you knew what actually happened behind the scenes, even the people who claim to be independent, okay, usually what's happening is that they've either got money to hire people or they're getting people to work for free, which I won't do, or they're using offshore labor, which I won't do, and you know, or someone's sort of being exploited somewhere. Things cost a certain amount, a certain amount of effort that you put in, even after 20 years. You know, I've been using Photoshop for 30 fucking years. I've been using Photoshop, Jesus Christ, and you know, there's still more to learn in it. And you know, like anybody who claims that they, you know these things, I just don't trust anybody who again, it comes back to this Dunning-Kruger thing and journalists and thinking that because they write about a thing that they're an expert in the thing, or that because they can sort of distill an idea about a thing and get it published, that somehow they are an expert in something that, you know, I've lived in the trenches. And then you have these fucking trenches people who are often the other side of the internet who, you know, again, I don't know what that person produces, but you know, they're off in their world memeing and shit and doing whatever, and it's like, well, yeah, okay, well, What was I doing while you were doing that? Okay, I was trying to design product. I was fucking designing basically Spotify 6 years before Spotify came out, and trying to get funding for that and failing, and trying to get funding for this and failing, and always being early to market with these things. But sorry, yeah, I was not hanging on message boards. My apology. Well, I was not that specific fucking thing. Sorry, it's not the most important thing to me. Okay. But what we can do is work together and share ideas and see what the fucking common principles are, and use people like me as your voice, slightly more palatable voice than, someone like a representative of people who post on Kiwi farms, which is not me. Okay, I understand it. I've been part of it. I've observed it. Okay, I have lived sort of older versions of things like Kiwi farms over the years, but the optics are shit. You need people like me. You need people like me to defend you, because there's a broader issue at play here. But trying to trip me up on like me not knowing a specific Twitch streamer or fucking, whatever. It's like, who cares? There's a million of them. Twitch drama is boring. And high school, it's tedious. It's like, no, I don't know who you, and this YouTube guy, Gamergate. Yeah, I know a few people from Gamergate. James Desborough. Okay, I know, like his perspective and his book on this. Okay, I know enough about it. I've also read the other side of that. Okay, I read all of it. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't watch some YouTuber that, like, whatever, I don't care. And probably when I get off stream, I'll go, oh yeah, I remember. Because, some of us, again, there's this whole parasocial thing where, oh, you don't know, but you don't like my favorite thing. How can you not know who my favorite thing is? Well, I don't. Tell me about it. I'll have a look. Okay, thanks. But don't assume people don't know just because they don't know what your specific thing is. But this is, again, part of what I'm doing is trying to get people thinking again. I mean, were they ever really? Especially in America, were they ever really thinking? It's purely fucking lizard brain. But if you want to think, and you are curious, like curiosity is the real and only real requirement here, which is to hear people out and shoot the shit, not just consume and get your next thought from fucking Tim Pool and have it spoon-fed to you, then, we're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. Okay. My next stream is actually that, I don't know, is a perfectly fine answer. Huh? I don't fucking know. Right? I don't know. It's okay to say, I don't know what the answer is. This one's hard. I don't know. In fact, if you actually have an understanding, especially geopolitics, especially war, especially things like Israel, Palestine, all those sorts of issues, okay? Online, internet stuff, radicalization, speech on the internet, a lot of these things, there's no absolute. And the only real answer is, fuck, I don't know. What do we do? Let's try something. Try this and try that and try this. I don't know. Okay, what can we fucking do? I don't know. Everything is about the least shit option sometimes. And so if you're going, my way, people who go my way don't get invited into the room in my experience, because they generally just are disruptive. Okay. People who are willing to sort of hear everyone out and sort of challenge people and question people's motives for doing that, which is, again, running political meetings and, various other things like that over the years, you can tell who cares about an issue and who uses an issue to fucking get attention for themselves and use it to abuse people and hit people with a giant stick. Or it's like, yeah, exactly. That's a perfectly acceptable solution. See, that's the thing. Back to Twitter. And I just want to be able to get, I'm very hopeful. Because the conflict I've got with Twitter, with Musk and this whole, is that you can tell that these absolute fucking right-wing American waste of space lunatics are chomping at the bit to harass and flood Twitter with their shit. Okay? They make it unpleasant, but they're also the same people as these sort of corporate journalists. They took it over and they manipulate the platform. I want Twitter to be 2010 Twitter, before all these fuckheads showed up, where I can turn around and reply with a goatsy image and everyone just laugh and think it's funny, right? No, so I was thinking about goatsy, where I want to be able to share the goatsy image and not risk banning. And not be complete, like I just want that freedom to reply fuck off at somebody without the AI tripping me up and auto banning me. Like it's like I'm looking forward to maybe the levers being taken off, in a sense that with I'm just going to farm these fuckheads for content and just have fun, right? So I like that. But at the same time, the problem still hasn't gone away, which is the fact that they mob and harass people. And that I do hope that, as I've said before, that there are processes in place and mechanisms in place, and like that Twitter's going to have to work with law enforcement and have a process. Right? You're going to have some sort of process for the vile harassment and also the malicious propaganda on all sides that's coming, and from troll farms and bots and all that sort of stuff. The inauthentic coordinated behavior. Okay, we're going to have to deal with it. That is a fact. Okay, anybody who is ignoring that fact and using that as speech is likely somebody who benefits from buying these things, using these things, or peripherally benefits from, like pods or sharing like rooms and all of those sorts of things, where they're kind of using platform manipulation. Platform manipulation is still a fucking problem. And I still, I think that one of the solutions is that the verification program be, government issued ID. Now, voluntary, that you opt in, and also for whistleblowers, then there's obviously a different mechanism, and they, obviously don't have to do that, but there's a different process and whatever they have to go through. Okay, these things can be solved, and they're not solved by flooding it with memes or flooding and spoiling it. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, there are builders, and there are people who come up with solutions to problems, and then there are destroyers, people who wreck things. And people who wreck things and try to trip people up and trick people and get around the system and exploit systems and exploit people are generally not my friend. I don't see it. You build something, make something, okay? Get a life, so to speak. All the scientific research says that the best way to cure toxic internet fucking mental health problems and addiction and all those things is basically get a fucking life. Okay, if you're super online, you don't have a life. Okay, unless you're, a builder or a creator, and you operate differently within it. I still have a somewhat questionable relationship with technology, and it can make me isolated. But I do make it an effort to make sure that I have some. I am actually going to be doing some of those things. So now that I've got Touch Portal, you should look at Touch Portal, Matt, because well, I'll probably get Paul to do it. I shouldn't, but because he's so fucking busy, and he does. Last thing he wants to do is code my shit. But I'm very lucky that I've got, like, once I tap out at a certain point. I can do basic sort of logic and CSS, SAS, JavaScript. I can do basic logic stuff. But once you get into sort of massive fucking functions and authentication tokens and all that sort of shit, I start to glaze over a bit. But Touch Portal it just allows you to do get and post and all that shit directly with API inquiries as a function within the app, right? So so you just hit a button and you can just automate all of these things. It's got REST API. So I'm looking forward to just utilizing that protocol to make things a lot quicker and easier, so that I can sort of, because I don't edit. So if I can start to run streams like a live program, and eventually, actually, an idea I'd like to do at some point is also sort of do tag team streams, because Restream, Restream, which is the multi-streaming thing that I use, it allows you to tag team and give people your share link, and they can put your stream on their stream, and you can sort of syndicate across all of these platforms. And I'd love to do something experimental there where we sort of tag team and have some sort of weird, maybe even a 24-hour thing where, a handful of people across the world sort of take ownership and tag team, and we run sort of a 24/7 channel. That would be pretty cool. So there's lots of things that you can do with these. I just want to see, again, I'm always just trying, I could sit and react to videos. That's boring. Like, how many people are doing that? It's boring. I find it so dull. I go, okay, this person, I do watch a handful of reacts just because I like to go, okay, so are people figuring it out and getting it right? Is there a gap that I can fill? But outside of, it's so lazy. It's lazy thinking and lazy content. And so I'm trying to figure out ways that I'm always trying to fucking be ahead and innovate, not just scrape pennies by in the moment. That's always been my problem. Yeah, so I also do want to do watch parties and stuff. So eventually when I get the Discord set up, I would like to do patron only watch parties, because problem with Twitter and Facebook, not Twitter so much, but Facebook and YouTube is obviously copyright strikes, the risk of copyright strikes, and especially frivolous ones if you're doing stuff. So going behind some sort of paywall, you can't even use a YouTube link really for private streams, because content ID will still trip you up. So people will still be notified of an unlisted link. Yeah. But we will, but I'm going to try and figure out a way to, do, like, let's say a big podcast drops like that. I mean, it would have been really good to sit and do the whole Lex Fridman Kanye thing, or do a whole Tim Pool fucking thing, or that whole sort of 3 hours type of thing where we hang out with patrons and stuff, or invite only into the Discord, where I'm not going to get a copyright strike, simply for doing commentary. And that's sort of the dilemma that you've got. But also it'd be good to watch movies, and, like I really would like to react to that Hillary Clinton, Chelsea Clinton show on Apple, for example. So this is where, like, again, when you know the history of the DMCA and where this all fucking started, which was that it was meant to stop piracy, but it had the impact of now being used to silence dissent and silence critique. Like, I imagine that the Clintons would be and would use, copyright strikes to circumvent any kind of public critique, because I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen much of it. I've seen Chapo Trap House did one, but that was audio only. And they didn't play any clips because, again, they're savvy. So this is just one of those problems that we've got, and I'm trying to figure out ways around it. But I also want to make sure I'm only one person. Again, if I was James Lindsay, for example, or, Tim Pool or someone like that, where I had some alt-right cash being thrown at me, okay, then and they gave me money to have a producer and fucking all this shit, then it'd be smooth sailing. I'd just get a guy, but I don't have that. So, I'm just trying to automate, but I actually find the process fun. Takes me longer. Of course it does. But it's, the result ends up being more considered. The result ends up being, I'll get there in the end. Okay. And the things that I value, which is the skill and the process and the, learning how to, eventually I'd probably be able to automate all of my streams and create a touch portal pages and bunches, and I'll just share the codes and scripts and everything and tutorials on my blog, and like eventually if I learn it. So that sweet alt middle of the aisle cash, exactly. Or that sweet socialist cash, that thing where everyone's paying to promote socialism. Oh my God. Well, that's not, I mean actual real socialism, not, the thing that it actually is, not the fucking nonsense that is the culture wars. But anyway, whatever. So anyway, I really, I wasn't triggered as such by someone questioning my stuff, but I just get annoyed when people rock up into streams and assume that someone doesn't. It does happen to guys as well, but it is like, it's just a thing where people assume that a woman is talking on the internet about a thing, and they just discovered her, and she doesn't have her tits out. So she must need book recommendations about things she read when they were launched. And I literally, actually, funny story. Guess what? Oh no, it's not there. It's fucking here. It's literally sitting there on the, oh, it's not behind me. Okay, look. Look. I'm going to try reading this book. It's fucking here, dickhead. Maybe I should just put a list of the books I've already read at the end. Fellas. Woohoo. All right, I'm just testing. Actually, that's a good way to test. Actually, I just realized this is similar. It's not really the similar, but that is how I can adjust my lighting, the light, to see how it reflects. I will do that. Because I'm doing it all on my own. I don't have anyone, like the position of the lights and everything. Go get up, position it, sit down. Get up, position it, sit down. So that's actually a good way to test it. I'll do that to test the exposure on skin. It's not exactly the same color because my skin's quite red, but woohoo! I've received 100 messages today. 98 of them were Matt. Thank you, producer Matt. People are going to be so confused because I'll be like talking about for half an hour about how I don't have staff or a producer or anything and how I do it all myself, but then crediting Matt, my producer. That's pretty funny. Just got a notification that I've received 100. Woohoo! Anyway, on that note, that's actually, I stumbled on an idea. So there you go. My book. Oh my God. It actually looks like it. You know how these people are like, oh, it doesn't look, actually, I do look after my books. Look, it looks like it's been read too. Funny that. I've also got, what have we got here? I've got all of the books. That's just the stuff. I've got fucking loads of books. I also have, no, I haven't. I don't think I'm ever going to get a YouTube plug. I don't see it happening unless somehow all of a sudden, I don't know. It's not something I pursue. It'd be funny though. Anyway, like I said, it's a delicate balance between having quiet little streams that everyone sort of, it's like a well-kept secret, but not being so secret that you can't survive and can't pay your fucking car payments and shit. I've got a car payment shit. That shit. So anyway, I'm gonna go. Thumbnail. See? You think that's attention grabbing enough? All right. I want a YouTube plague. It's called MAGA content. I honestly, it is really, really tricky for me. I have a dilemma because it is like sort of like Kiwi Farms, which is, I think that this is part of the problem is that it is kind of unpleasant. The Twitter experience, I think people are going to be quite shocked. If let's just say suddenly everyone gets unbanned. Be interesting to see if it just starts fresh and resets it all. It just goes, that would be funny, right? If let's just say suddenly everyone got unbanned, okay? And he starts over. You get basically your strikes reset, which I imagine that might actually be maybe what you could do is those who have, because they do have a strike system, those who, have gotten their sort of 5 strikes. I don't know the exact number, but let's say they've got 5 strikes. And they just suddenly give everyone their sort of 3 and 4 strikes. So you're on your last legs, but you kind of got to still keep your, So the CEO and CFO and director of, this was a tech test stream. I'm thinking I might come back tomorrow or Sunday because my littlest son's not coming, so I've got some time to stream. I do actually want to talk about what I think might be happening. So the CFO is interesting because that's interesting. Well, the CEO, yeah. I mean, that wasn't the CEO the CFO before that? He was, wasn't he? No, he was engineer. I got it again. I can't remember on stream. But the director of legal is interesting to me because Twitter trust and safety have obviously, yeah, especially in terms of the way that they've conducted themselves in terms of I mean, that's, yeah, terms of service, the way that the legal avenues, the fuckery that they've done in the courts, the way that they have handled all lawsuits, and it's a no-brainer. If I was him, I'd be firing them too. Okay. It'd be interesting to has Vijaya gone? I don't know. I have to again. I've been really busy with tech. I need to look at the details. That was on my list to do today, and I'm thinking of doing a stream on, yeah, tomorrow. I actually do a weekend stream. I haven't done one. I don't do them very often. I'm just trying to think of the best time. Sunday morning, maybe my time. I don't know. Yeah, I think about it. Thing is, everyone's home, and then I can't wake Paul up because our bedroom's just over there. So it's like, and then timing and whatever. Anyway, I like during the week because it's just me and my son at the other end of the house. Big house is at the other end. But yeah, I'm thinking of doing another stream. If not, it will be Monday. But I want to talk about this, in a more structured, because I've got a lot of things to say about it. But ideally, I think people are going to be surprised, because the thing about this gradual sort of this nudging that's happening, and the thing about, like, think about the concept of gaslighting, right? In reverse, sort of. I just think of gaslighting where increments. You turn it up bit by bit until you don't really even notice. Like the famous story with eBay. eBay went from the light yellow background, and they wanted to change it to white. So what they did was they went and just changed it to white, and everyone got shitty. Okay, they went, no, fucking revolt. So what they did was they gradually just turned it gradually down until it was white, and no one noticed anyway. And the same thing, oh no, I can't talk about NDA. I can talk about that story because that's, yeah, okay. But, that's one of those things that you constantly do. Now with Twitter, because of the sort of systematic banning of people who are generally, some of them are, unfairly banned, others not so much. And I think there's going to be a period where things are going to be quite unpleasant, but I also am just going to see an opportunity to fucking make fun of everything. So see how we go. But yeah, I mean, so that thing with eBay is I mean, that was one of those early lessons in sort of UX design that again, you learn from history, when eBay tried to change the background color from yellow to white, and they just incremented it shade by shade over the period of weeks, right? And then people were like, oh, and they didn't even notice. That's how you do it. Like when they changed their logo as well, and their whole brand thing, because at one point their brand sort of, had to be iterated. So they went from that to, the new brand colors that they've got now. All I can say is they've got new brand colors. But, the new fonts and all those things. So they did that stuff gradually and rolled it out over time. Part of that is because these things are slow moving, but also because, users tend to arc up when you just change things on them. And that was something that we learned from the early internet. But I think that with the moderation, I think that they're going to have to ease in and ease back out. I don't know whether they're just going to just remove a strike so that people can come back. And sort of redesign. I don't know what the plan is, but a sudden reinstatement is going to be weird, because I think you're not going to realize how unpleasant it was. I left Twitter in 2016. I left Twitter in 2015 when Trump started running. It became so poisonous and so unpleasant to use. I mean, I was barely using it after 2012 anyway. But then it's Matt thinks this is a Zoom call. Producer Matt's very busy. I think this is enough of a test now. But yeah, so I'll talk about this next time. But I think that just prepare yourself. Prepare yourself for how it might get unpleasant for a bit, because I think the reasons behind the censorship haven't gone away. There are some valid reasons, because again, this fucking MAGA GOP fucking this fucking machine that works. This, those things do co-opt. They say that conservatives are censored and shit. It's like, well, no, you're not. Your harassment and bullying is, okay? Some conservatives, some people are sort of unfairly banned, and, there's some edge cases, and, like this, the disinformation stuff. Yes, it's great, okay? And a lot of it is case by case, and that's why I think their legal department needs a fucking ground up. They need an appeals process, much like, hopefully like Facebook implementing and those sorts of things. But I think this is going to be interesting, because I want a 2010 Twitter. I don't want a 2016 Twitter. I wanted a Twitter that was for people to just talk and reply and banter. And I mean, if that means closing off the API for a while, I mean, that might be something they might need. I would prefer that they just close off. I mean, that might be it. Closing off the API and making people reapply and be verified in order to use the API. That might be a better way to handle it, because most of the sort of, again, they could still go on the website and those things, but you just got to make it trickier for bots and troll farms and those sorts of things to operate, where they will, much like the Apple developer program, maybe you need to apply and pay a fee or something. Now, of course, obviously, there's going to be people that get through, those with the will. There's always going to be a way, but I'm just, there's lots of different ways that they can handle this. But I might just talk about Twitter after I've sort of gotten the lay of the land. I wish I was internal at this point, because it would be really cool. Unfortunately, I just, I don't have that. I'm not an Ivy League fucking Musk circle person. I'm not ex-Google. I'm not anything. So I don't like my chances unless Matt happens to be directly connected to someone at Twitter. I can't, that hasn't been fired. Or, I just don't have those connections anymore. Mostly because I've burned those bridges. But, I don't have an in at Twitter. I never have. And it's unfortunate, because it's my most beloved platform, and it's the one I'd most love to fucking transform. But, people like me generally don't get a seat at the table, because I'm not, first of all, not American. Or willing to move there. And second of all, I'm kind of too warm and fuzzy, and they, I'm not an engineer. And engineers have engineer brain, and I have a feeling that Musk is going to go napalm on some of the human-centered people. I hope he doesn't, but I think he might be too engineer heavy. I don't know. I think he has engineer brain. I think he's kind of got the same engineer blind spots. No offense to Matt. But, if you know anyone, let me know. Anyone, know people who know people at Twitter. But Twitter's it's surprising how many employees they've got. And being in tech, everyone I know people at eBay, I know people at Facebook, I know people at Adobe, I have contacts at Grab. It fucking Grabs. I have contacts in various places. And it's so weird, right? But it's so the blind spots, I want to say, this is what makes you an excellent engineer. But the problem about being an excellent engineer is that because you can accomplish great things as an engineer, there's a gap there's a Dunning-Kruger, there's a thing that you need to be aware of in terms of the people shit. Now, I think a lot of you become aware of it when you get married, and there's a gap, but you think that might be a gender difference. But I think a lot of it is also you know, the way your brain works difference, which is that, you know, I tend to work more in the abstract. I'm comfortable in the gray. Not everything can be engineered, you know, not everything can be sort of, you know, if elsed into fucking oblivion, right? Yeah, I've said that it's like three koalas in a trench coat. And if you cut 75% of the workforce, now it's like, you know, one kid in an oversized trench coat. Right? But but I'm amazed actually what a black box Twitter is. And I think that, I mean, again, I understand why, because it's a security thing, right? We probably do know people that work at Twitter, but just, you know, a lot of it because of also offshore stuff and all those things. I'm just surprised that normally I can get to a guy who gets to a guy who gets to a guy within tech. I can maybe make a call to find a person to get a person. Even people who I know who are like literally work like, no, they're just they're a fucking black box. It's fascinating to me that you can, yeah, it's fascinating. But the journos seem to be able to get those contacts really easily. You know, like even as as an agency, I'd run an agency account for PPC and business and stuff. Still couldn't really contact them. They're really only interested in sort of, you know, top tier AAA fucking media. That's it. That's all they care about. So hopefully those people fuck off. And hopefully it can go back to being what it was. I don't want it to be 2016 Twitter, because that was what made a lot of us leave. It was so fucking awful. And also, I hope my friends who got, you know, banned, like one of my friends got his like big blue check account, a comedian blue check account, fucking banned because he called Americans cunts. And they mass reported him and he got banned. So I'm hoping that some of these things can be reversed, and also just that I can get the reach that I've earned and deserve and work for and do organically. And, you know, it's just going to be very interesting to see. I'll be sort of, you know, measuring it and seeing what the impact is of various changes along the way. It's going to be interesting to see. I'd love to work at Twitter though. They won't have me. Who cares? Musk just wants to burn shit to the ground until I see evidence otherwise. He's, you know, but we'll see how we go. I think he just wants the AI. So I think he just sees some synergy with the AI and thinks it's a bit of fun. And, you know, he gets a bit of, you know, bit of love from the people who will pay for his fucking space projects and shit. And they'll remember him when they get unbanned from Twitter and the Republicans sweep the fucking nation of the United States and they descend into fascism. And he can get, you know, he can go to Mars. Perfect plan. That's the worst case scenario. That's the bad faith. The good faith is, fuck, he's funny. And I hope that what he says is true and I believe him. Because the thing about engineers is, if he is autistic, he also struggles to lie. And this is the thing that's always been my thing, which is I go, well, maybe he's telling the truth. I think he just believes it, like me. I believe everything I say in the moment and then I'll go back on it, but it was true both times. It's just that the context shifted in my head. And so maybe he says things that he fully intends to say and fully means, but gets compromised. Like, I understand that happens too. Musk bought Twitter so he can tweet from his Tesla and his rockets. Yeah, I mean, I like I said to Paul, you know, I want to know what the end game is. Don't we all? I mean, that's the one thing. I don't, because if history is a teacher, the end game doesn't look good. The least charitable and, you know, view of a lot of these actions is that, you know, we're heading into fucking, you know, World War III and like global fascism and, you know, mass fucking all it. But I can't, you can't think that that's going to happen, because that's how you give up. So for me, because I tend to be a builder, I'm like, okay, well, let's not go, you know, that's a possibility. Learn to make some cheese, learn to, you know, all that sort of stuff. But let's just see if we can fix it. You know, I'm seeing a lot of tech that is, you know, I think that maybe with the, you know, I think maybe tech's going through a new phase. And it's not Web 3. I'm saying it's going through a sort of a regression part, because Web 2 was hyped so much, right? It was hyped. Maybe we're just sort of heading back to a sort of Web 1.5, where, Ajax is the buzzword, and, but what we can do is have web rings, but more of a sort of syndication and federated setup. Maybe we'll get it right this time. But the problem is that we're working within this global economic landscape with 3.114. Twitter NT. Twitter Service Pack 1. But maybe we're just kind of, I don't think Web3 is not it. Web3 bros, they're fucking idiots. Yes, some of the innovations are cool, but again, it's never about, it never has been, it never will be, and you keep making, this is the engineer's gap. It's not about the tech. It's all ones and zeros in the end. If you can think of it, and the processors can handle it, it can be designed. But true design thinking and true human design-centered thinking is not about the tech. It is about whether it serves people, whether it, maybe there's just this, maybe there's a learned lesson here, much like what we went through with markets, with the Industrial Revolution. This is the technological information revolution, right? What we went through with the Industrial Revolution was, market failure. We realized, well, everyone except the United States realized that, things tend to go in a certain direction if you design a system that incentivizes the most selfish and exploitative and, hyper-individualistic people, and also in the context of sort of, this parasocial stuff. With the internet, there was like with the Industrial Revolution, a lot of these things and the printing press, they were great, on balance, amazing. But there's a big flip side, but that we hadn't quite anticipated, and I hope that we're coming out the other side of that. What I'm seeing here is that Facebook are getting a pounding. Okay, I'll talk about that another time with the Apple thing. But yeah, it's so stupid. The NFT museum. Yeah, they won't give you a gift for that money. Oh my God. Yeah, it's. And again, I think when you've lived through the life cycles of these things, we went through, like Web 2.0 was a bubble. Web 3.0 is a bigger bubble and a lot more money, because there's a lot of people who these guys just don't, Americans in particular, don't pay attention to history. They just pay attention to what they're told happened. They don't sort of generally pay attention to trends or sort of broader history. Like a lot of them, again, generalizing, but, mainstream Americans don't know that we've been through this 100 times before worldwide. American exceptionalism is a thing where they think they're the only people to go through a thing. Americans are the teenagers of the fucking world, where they think they're the first people to think of a thing, the first people to fucking go through a thing. They know everything, and it's like, no, well, the rest of the world is the parent going, well, the UK is the parent and Australia is the aunt going, fucking like, we know stuff. And they're like, nah, fuck it. You can't tell them. And they'll have to learn. And hopefully that doesn't end in collapse for all of us. But, with the internet, it started out well. The US government fully intended to keep the internet independent. Like Clinton, to his credit, wanted to keep church and state separate with the internet. And over time, sort of those corporations just took over everything, and they took over the political parties, and it's just swallowed everyone whole. And I think if you are a student of history, and you know how history tends to repeat, or at least rhyme, right? As you know, the saying goes, that there has an end date either way. Okay, and so what I think may occur is that we're just seeing a correction where, Web 2 had a lot of benefits, had a lot of flip sides. Maybe we can recalibrate and build things with privacy from the ground up, to have a do-over. The horse seems to have bolted a little bit with data, but at the same time, it would be good if there was just some sort of commitment. This is naive, but some sort of commitment to just burning all of that data and, you know, starting over. I don't think they will. But, you know, obviously that's not going to happen. But, you know, well, we'll see how we go. You know, it's all we can do. All we can do is just keep trying to be better, like I am every day. Just try to be better. Try to get smarter. Try to be curious and try to be, you know, assume the best. And obviously I didn't assume the best of that chatter who argued with me either. I felt bad. But at the same time, you know, set boundaries. Okay. You can be charitable and set boundaries as well. Okay. You know, you can't really, and also just stop being so stressed about things that are outside of your control. Yeah. Episode sponsored by Mr. Robot. I haven't finished. I watched the first season of that, never finished the rest. But you know, like I think all we can do is I know the impulse is to try and control stuff, and I think a lot of my role, I feel, is to just try and make people feel a bit better, feel like they're not alone, and feel like it's not as scary as you might think, because a lot of people are just they're kind of just doing shakedowns for cash, and you know, you give them money and they're giving you easy answers when answers aren't easy, and scapegoating people, and it's not gonna end the way. It's not gonna end well with this scapegoating either way. I don't like it, you know. I will focus on individuals' behavior. I will focus on trends. I'll focus on facts and history. I'll try to be charitable, not always. And also be very clear about there's being charitable and having fun and roasting and, you know, doing all that sort of stuff. There's, you know, it's okay to be inconsistent and incompatible. And I wish people were less trusting of polish. And if something is has less friction, it usually means that there's a design behind it. Because nature's messy, we're messy, our brains are messy. So if something is going too easy for you, whether that's an experience or an idea, if it's going down, or food, slider foods, you know, junk food, goes down well, goes down easy, okay? It's worth at least wondering, you know, why it's designed to go down so easy. You know, that you know, I think that's I mean, even engineers will go fucking, you know, coding. This is the worst thing ever. I hate it. Nothing but bugs and nothing but pain. That's life, okay? But then you build something and it goes well, and you think it goes smoothly in retrospect, but it doesn't. You learn from it and you go, okay, well, let's add that to the knowledge base and do better next time, okay? I'm just waffling now. But anyway, this was a test. I'm going to go. I'm done. I'm tired. I'm going to go work on other stuff. Lights shit. Bully. Anyway, let me see if my bye-bye button works on my iPad. All right. It's time to go. Bye, Matt. Thanks for the chat. I'll be back. I'm probably going to do another one on the weekend. I really want to get this sort of lighting. I want to get it so that I can just hit a fucking thing and stream. Also, there we go. Okay. All right. I love you. Thank you for your precious last seconds. All that stuff. This was way longer than I intended. Fucking hell. 2 hours on a test stream. Jesus Christ, Taya.